County Landmarks Preservation Commission is now in session. Please note the meeting is being audio recorded. My name is John Holman, Chair of the Commission, and I will be running tonight's meeting. We are your volunteer representatives appointed by our county councilperson or county executive and entrusted to monitor renovations and additions to our Baltimore County historic resources. We review and approve nominations to the Baltimore County Preliminary Landmarks List and comment on National Register nominations. Additionally, we are charged with evaluating submissions to the Baltimore County Historic Tax Credit Program that encourages the appropriate maintenance and renovation of designated historic properties. Would the commissioners please introduce themselves by name and county council district or representation? We can go in the order listed on the PowerPoint screen, except I want to do a special welcome to Daniel Dean, who was just joining us for his first meeting, and allow him to introduce himself first, if you'd like to. Daniel, we're so glad to have you with us.
Thank you very much. I'm Daniel Dean, and I'm representing District 5, and really glad to be here, and nice to meet you all in person finally.
Thank you. Okay, Lily, we'll go back to you.
Lily Mundroff, District 1.
Chris Weston, District 2.
Wendy McIver, District 3.
Ray's not here. Phoebe?
Phoebe Evans-Latosha, Executive Appointment.
Jamie Ferguson, Executive Appointment.
And we don't have Scott, right? Ed? Ed, you're up. You're muted, though.
Ed Horde, Executive Appointment.
Yeah, I see Vince just joined us.
Vince Johnson, Executive Appointment.
Good, thank you, Vince. And I think Chris Parts will be joining us a little later. Now, we'll please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, under God, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. The Landmarks Preservation Commission operates under the authority, standards, and requirements of Title VII, Article 32 of the Baltimore County Code. We refer to the United States Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation as administered by the National Park Service. This is the accepted national standard for historic preservation projects. Our own Baltimore County Historic Preservation Design Guidelines directly reference and incorporate the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. We have important preservation issues to discuss and debate at each meeting. If you'd like to make comments, please limit your comments to the specific application or proposal submission being reviewed. We ask for your assistance and understanding so that the discussions do not digress. As an additional comment, we can all agree that historic preservation is an important aspect of the quality of life and place that makes Baltimore County unique. As a commission, we seek to recommend significant buildings and places for landmark consideration to the County Council for their final vote. As commissioners, we serve on the commission due to our expertise, interest, and passion for historic buildings and places and review submissions based solely on their merit. While we may disagree in discussion and voting, we continue to be a collegial body that respects each other personally and professionally. Staff reminders, anything we need to talk about there?
Just a reminder on offering testimony for those in attendance. If a regular member of the public needs to register with staff if they would like to speak during the meeting in advance or submit written testimony. Owners, applicants, and project representatives do not need to sign up, but staff will announce their name and unmute them at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Any consideration of changes to today's agenda?
No changes.
Okay, good. And then minutes of the March 14th meeting, any corrections, additions,
Yeah, there was an update made to the March 14th minutes to incorporate the testimony of Mr. Andrew Crosby. And it was circulated, I believe, on Monday. And then Dan caught that I attached the wrong file, but that was on the SharePoint, and the correct file was circulated this afternoon. That's it.
Thank you for catching that, Dan, and thank you, Jessica, for updating it. With that information in hand, any other changes or corrections?
No.
May we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. And we'll do a voice vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Any dissent? Anybody? Okay, all in favor. Good, thank you. And then consent agenda items. We have one item on the consent agenda. Staff, anything you want to add to that or review on?
Yep, this is the Dai Wang property located at 86 Dunkirk Road in Towson, County Council District Number 6. This is a contributing resource within the Rogers Forge National Register Historic District, and the applicants are seeking Part 2 approval for the in-kind slate shingle roof repairs and replacements.
Thank you. Any objection to it being as a consent agenda item? Hearing none, may we do this by voice vote, Jessica?
Yes.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move that we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Chris. A second?
Second, Phoebe.
Thank you, Phoebe. All in favor, aye, or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no dissents, consent agenda is approved. And then we move on to item number 5. Jessica, are you going to introduce that to us?
Yes, thank you. So for agenda item 5, we're back to the Greenwood DeFord House, Baltimore County Board of Education property at 6901 North Charles Street in Towson, County Council District Number 6. This is final landmark number 57, the Greenwood or DeFord House, and the applicants have requested the in-kind replacement of windows. So this will be the replacement of 9 wood windows on the 3rd level of the Greenwood house. The work involves the following windows: 5 double pane casement shed dormer windows with 16 lights. These are windows 1, 5, 7, 8, and 9. 3 eyebrow dormer demi-lune windows with 6 lights. This includes windows 2, 3, and 6. 1 double hung 8/8 shed dormer window, which is window number 4, and this is on the front elevation. The application cites damage to the existing wood windows, including chip paint and rot to the frames, sashes, muntins, and gaps in the ceiling that prevent the windows from opening and closing properly. The application did not mention if the age of the windows was known or if a window assessment had been conducted to determine that each window had deteriorated beyond repair and that it was in need of replacement. The applicant proposes to remove and abate the 9 existing windows described. Openings will be boarded up. Windows will be replaced in kind with wood custom fabricated windows to match the existing size, dimensions, and visual qualities of the existing. Drawings of the window specifications were included in the meeting materials packet, and all usable hardware will be retained and reinstalled on the new windows or will be fabricated to match the existing hardware as needed. New trim or bead will be installed as necessary, and all window glass will be replaced with 3/8" insulated glass and will be sealed with glazing putty, and then will be painted white to match the existing color. The applicable guidelines from our old set of guidelines for windows and doors states that historic windows must be retained and repaired. Where deterioration is so severe that repair is impossible, it must be replaced in kind. Severe deterioration needs to be proved by a conditions report by a qualified craftsperson or significant documentation. In-kind replacement refers to substitute consisting of the same material, light, sash, and other component parts, and in-kind replacements shall have true divided or simulated divided lights. And then for our updated 2024 guidelines, Chapter 2, Windows and Doors, Our guidelines state that historic windows should be repaired to the extent possible, repair individual deteriorated components wherever possible, and to not replace the entire window unit unless it is deteriorated beyond repair, and that replacement windows may be considered where lead-based paint hazards on accessible friction or impact surfaces exist. These replacements must meet window replacement guidelines. So staff's recommendation is to determine if the proposal has sufficient information about the existing conditions and lead-based hazard to warrant an in-kind replacement, then to determine if the proposal meets our design guidelines and then to approve, deny, or modify accordingly. Citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, Windows and Doors, chapters pages 1 through 8, County Code section 32-7-405. And some updated materials were provided by the applicant this evening.
Thank you, Jessica. Is the applicant or representative of the applicant with us?
Yes, I have Mr. Corey Bender and Mr. Douglas Mullins. I've unmuted you both.
Good evening. This is Douglas Mullins. I am a representative from the Office of Facilities Construction Improvement with Baltimore County Public Schools. I'm an architect by profession, licensed. I also work here in the engineering office where we handle some of the building items and issues at the Greenwood campus, as well as new capital projects, school replacements, additions, renovations, modifications to classrooms, et cetera. So we're kind of all encompassing within our office. Are there questions regarding the window replacement proposal for the Greenwood Mansion, the DeFord?
Commissioners, this is the point where we would ask clarifying questions on whether the items could have been repaired or replaced rather than replaced, and questions about what materials they might be using if they replace them. Anything that anybody has on their mind?
I have something. I emailed Jessica and Caitlin this morning. I read the application yesterday and I couldn't find the material that the new windows would be made out of. It's since been clarified that the new windows would be sapele, which is an African type of mahogany wood. And that was sent to Jessica and Caitlin.
Doug, do you have information on what the windows, the replacement materials are?
This for Douglas or with Baltimore County Public Schools or somebody else?
Yes, no, Baltimore County Public Schools. I'm sorry. Yes, you. Thank you.
Okay. So these windows are going to be custom fabricated. The sapele wood is going to be used. It is a very hard and dense wood that upholds, it withstands moisture and weathering, and it is very durable. It's got a very high durability rating. It is very bug resistant, so it helps Baltimore County Public Schools to maintain the product with limited budget. Baltimore County Public Schools budget, we try to pour as much as we can into improving the educational needs and the educational buildings within the system. So for this product to have a longer lasting lifespan, we feel that it's a very good selection. In looking at the windows within the DeFord or the Greenwood Mansion, it does not appear that there is historic glass. Historic glass over time will be thinner at the top and it'll start to get wavy and it'll start to thicken at the bottom. Historic glass over time will start to run. And looking at the hardware of the windows is brass and it's got the shiny luster on it. It does not appear that some of the hardware, is of historic value. It looks like it might be 20 to 25 years old. We do not have records of window replacement. I've looked through Baltimore County Public Schools records, record drawings. As far back as we go is 1967 in terms of getting building plans and some drawings. We don't have any record of window replacements or any other maintenance that has happened on the exterior of the facade. as far back as 1967. We are working on our record documents to upload that, but it does not appear that these are of a historic nature where they're older than 30 years or more.
Could you say the name of the wood again and even spell it for me?
Yes, Sapele, S-A-P-E-L-E. It's in the same family as mahogany. It's the same genus as Utile. It's used a lot in exterior decking or siding or porch ceilings. So it's a very highly stable, and it's easily available in wider, longer boards, but it also works very well with machine equipment as to not dull blades. And because we are creating the eyebrow windows, we're looking for a product that will allow us to create the arch of the window and also build in the integral muntins.
Commissioners, any other clarifying questions?
I'd have one, but I'll wait. Phoebe, you wanted to go next?
No, you can go, Lily.
Thank you. I have a question on, I guess, the refurbishment of the rest of the window. So right now, there's the replacement of the sashes, but what work will be done to the outside trim or flashing or any of that? And what does that mean in terms of maintenance long term for because it seems to me like in some of them the sash is deteriorated and doesn't fit the opening very well. So but you're not talking about doing anything with the frames, purely the sashes. Is that correct?
We're talking about the entire window as the window system. Any of the exterior trim surrounding the window on the outside is anticipated to remain in place. If we need to, we will have to remove some of it in order to remove the window, but we anticipate being able to put that back in place. If it needs to be refurbished, we would replace in kind with the same detail of the trim. The flashing appears to be of good life cycle right now. So it would be kind of the entire window unit itself. We would create a brand new window that looks exactly like the windows we have in place with the integral muntins. So it would not be a clip-in muntin like we see in typical residential builder grade homes where you can remove it to wash the entire pane. This would be a crafted window to match exactly what we have in place. They will develop and measure and get an overall scheme. The contractor will come out and get an overall scheme of what the window looks like in terms of overall dimensions. And then they will measure again specifically for each window opening to make sure that the custom opening or that the opening is custom fit. Older buildings over time tend to migrate, they tend to shift, they tend to swell, they tend to age. And so no opening on a historic building is quite the same. It varies slightly. So we have a good understanding with the contractor that is proposed to do the work. They have a very good understanding of what they need to do, and BCPS feels confident in their abilities to match the quality and the dimensions and the existing size and style of the windows.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Lily?
I think in the submitted documents, it's indicated that only the sashes are being replaced, not the whole window unit. But from the clarification, it seems that the entire window unit, including sills, are being replaced. So I just wanted to clarify that that's what's proposed. That's all.
Thank you. And then Phoebe, you had a question as well?
Yeah, in terms of the guidelines for replacement versus repair, there was a mention of lead the presence of lead paint? Have you had done any testing on these windows for the presence of lead paint?
BCPS has an environmental department that tests throughout our school system, within buildings, within schools. I do not specifically know if this has been tested for lead paint. It's very likely that the sealants around the window would contain lead particle. We could look at that and get some testing if that is deemed required. Again, I believe that's a requirement for historic windows of a specific age or timeline. And with my observations and inspection of the windows, it seems that they're probably younger than what would be the requirement for what would be deemed a historic window.
Any other questions, commissioners?
You kind of following up on that. I mean, it does look like the new guidelines, do note repair of individual deteriorated components whenever possible. Don't replace the entire window unless it's deteriorated beyond repair. But the lead-based is a consideration for replacement windows. So I would just encourage you to test for lead paint also for the kind of the abatement purposes of replacing the windows. There may be some lead paint that is, in the replacement process that is, loosened in terms of lead dust. So you don't have a sense of the date of any of the individual windows. It seemed curious to me that some of them were the one double hung, and then the others were casement windows, and it looked like there was difference even then among the ones that weren't being replaced as well. Did BCPS not purchase this property until the 60s, or when did BCPS or the county purchase the property?
I believe it was the mid 60s.
Okay.
Between 65 and 67 as to when it became property of Baltimore County Public Schools. Prior to that, it was a girls' school.
Okay.
So we do not have any record documents of the buildings prior to that.
Or any changes in the windows is kind of what I'm getting at.
That is correct.
Yeah, it kind of gets at that style question I'm asking in terms of were these all, if there's a mixture of the casement and the double hung, were they at one point all double hung and some of them switched to casement, or vice versa?
That is a question I'm not able to provide an answer for. Typically with historic mansions, there would have been a mixture of window types. Some areas, if we can go back to the photos for a few moments. With architectural style, when you have like the little eyebrow windows, they would have been more of a hopper window. They either tilt inward or they tilt outward. It looks like we have up in the shed dormer. Shed dormers in historic homes, a lot of them would have opened outward for ventilation purposes. Some of them would have been sash windows where they're kind of a double hung or a single hung. On the lower floors, I believe we have more sash type windows. So this would have been a style thing, most likely.
Yeah, it just seemed on the east elevation that there was a combination of casement and double hung.
Yeah, to either side of the chimney there.
Yeah, that seemed odd to me.
So with those thoughts in mind, our options could be to ask Baltimore County Schools to go back and discover more historic provenance on it, on how old the windows actually are, to actually check them for lead, to see whether that is the issue we're dealing with. Do we feel like we have enough information to make some recommendation or motion?
I have a question. One more question.
Sure.
Have you done any detailed examination of each window to see if they're repairable, rather than just they all need to be replaced?
The glass in the windows is
No,
not.
I'm asking if the windows themselves, the wood portions of them, are repairable or not repairable. Have you determined? How did you determine that they were not repairable?
We have not. We've looked at the replacement because of the longevity of lifespan for a new window in its place.
Our guidelines do say that you need, if it's repairable, you need to repair rather than replace.
Correct.
So,
and that.
Yeah, that's why I was getting at the lead question, because if there was lead in there, then that would justify, even if they may be repairable, that that you could replace them.
Yeah.
And I guess that also begs the question that, I think through investigation of the jams, you might find that where there are casements, you would find evidence of a double hung that existed there previously, potentially. So that, and I'm not sure what the guidelines say if you would be replacing a casement to restore it to the original, or to restore it with the original double hung. I think that the intent would be to bring it back to the original window. That's why I think on that east elevation, where you have a double hung on one side of the window and or on one side of the chimney and a casement on the other side, and a number of other elevations have the double hungs. It's just a question of if replacing the casements with a casement is the right move for those.
Well, my experience with the National Park Service is that we did a project many years ago on Park Avenue in which we had a huge window with many mullions that were no mullions, very few mullions. And we said, oh, we saw evidence of the mullions. We documented it. We replaced the window with a multi-pane window, as was indicated by what was there. And the National Park Service rejected our application. They said, no, you're supposed to stabilize it in place as is, not restore it back to the original. They wanted it left because all buildings are a work in progress.
Transition,
and evolve over time. And the thinking behind it is, let's stabilize it where it is today, and rather than trying to make guesses on what it used to be. Where do you stop if you start doing that? And so I think it's, there are additions, historic additions. The building, that window was probably 50, 60 years old. That had been, modified and worked, but that was their point. And we had to replace that window with a window that looked like the one that was there when we started.
There now, yeah.
So I would say, I think what they're doing it is the right way. I think they should stabilize it as it is today.
So what I seem to be hearing from commissioners is that we have some unanswered questions on whether the windows can be saved, whether they would qualify for replacement based on lead. Is there somebody who might want to try and put into motion those concerns? And
can I add something?
I have one more question then too.
Oh, sure, Chris, go ahead.
It was on just it's showing an insulated glass pane. I'm assuming that the original windows, or the windows that are there now, do not have insulated glass. Is that correct?
The windows in place right now, I believe, they're not insulated. We're having some weathering issues where we're getting colder air, hotter air coming through. We need to better stabilize the interior environment.
And condensation will deteriorate the window from the inside.
Right.
Which is evident in some of the photos.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say I'm also mindful that this is a county property and part of the school system, and you know, as a taxpayer and supporter of our schools, I want to make sure that we are utilizing the school resources, limited school resources, as efficiently as possible. Now, I don't no difference in terms of the cost of the replacement versus repair, but that's a consideration as well.
I think we need to be looking at it from the perspective of what's correct historically. I mean, that's.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So hearing this kind of clarifying conversation, would one of you like to put a motion on the floor on how we proceed?
Was there another comment that we were getting from the applicant?
Yes. Hi, good evening.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. I just kind of wanted to add on to Douglas. My name is Corey Bender. I'm a project manager for our planning team, and I work with Douglas. I just did want to note that we did have abatement included with this project. So they will plan on abating and taking all the necessary steps that they need to. And we have gotten with our maintenance team, you know, to kind of look over the windows, and then the vendor as well. And a lot of these windows, we asked about repairing them as well, you know, and trying to see if that would be even a better cost for us. At this point, you know, what we're getting feedback from our team and the vendor is just, you know, we're better off with our money spent just to go ahead and replace them, you know, in kind as best we can. And that would be our best option. I just kind of want to add that in if it helps.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, Corey.
Yeah, just having that lead paint testing would help justify the in kind a little bit better in my mind.
Right.
Yeah,
If the windows were made in the 1990s, they're not going to have lead paint on them.
Right.
So I have to take the word of the staff architect as to when they were, what the origin is.
Yeah, well, they don't. It sounds like they don't. That they may predate 1967 when the school system got the property. And depending on that when before 1967, they may or may not have lead paint in them.
I suspect that the windows post-date 1967.
Oh, okay.
I don't know specifically when. I'm just getting a report through our environmental team that a lot of our windowsills, sashes, the windowsills and the frames are testing positive for lead. If you would like me to submit that information to Caitlin Merritt, I'm glad to. I'm texting live while we're doing this.
But this is not the sills, and I would expect the sills and the jams to have lead.
Yeah.
But if the others are really 30 years old, they would not probably have lead paint on the windows themselves. I look at the windows and they look fairly deteriorated. I mean, I think it would be a challenge to repair some of those. So
I would agree.
I'm inclined to say go ahead and do it the way you're going, but I'll leave it to the commissioners.
Ed, that sounds like a wonderful way to start a motion.
I'll start the motion.
We could argue.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposal as proposed and issue a certificate of appropriateness.
Thank you.
And I'll second that motion.
Second. Okay. Any discussion of that motion on the floor? So the motion on the floor is to issue a certificate of approval as requested by Baltimore County School System in citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, Windows and Doors, 1 through 8 in County Code Section 32-7-405. Hearing no further discussion, may we do a roll call vote, please, Jessica?
Thank you. Could I have Chris Weston, please?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Lily?
Yes.
Phoebe?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
And John, please.
Yes.
Great,
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
the motion carries 9-0. to nothing. And then we
Jessica,
move
I'm
on.
here too. Chris Parks is a yes.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, Chris, could I have?
Chris, gosh, I'm so sorry.
I'm a yes.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
All right, folks, moving on to agenda item number 6. This is the Bard property located at 305 Meloxton Avenue in Lutherville, County Council District number 3. This is a contributing resource in the Lutherville County Historic District, and the applicant is proposing approval for a Part 2 application for the in-kind front porch repairs and replacements. So this is the Ray House. It is a 2.5-story dwelling constructed in the Queen Anne style in 1885. The applicant wishes to make in-kind replacements of the existing front porch and to retain and repair salvageable materials as much as possible. The existing 25-foot by 8-foot wood porch is located on the front elevation and spans the length of the facade. The porch is supported by 4 brick pillars beneath a tongue and groove wood floor with a 2-inch by 9-inch Chinese balustrade railing motif. A wooden staircase and railing are situated in line with the front entry, and a standing seam metal roof contains a Yankee gutter system that is supported by wood framing and 6 turn porch posts with a simple ball and dowel spandrel rail that adorns the fascia. The applicant proposes the following work. First is the selective demolition of the existing front porch. The owner clarified that the entire porch, its roof, framing, and flooring will be removed. Existing brick piers will remain in place and be reused. Existing exterior features will be protected from damage, including but not limited to the stone foundation, brick piers, wood siding, corner moldings, windows, and shutters. The existing removable airlock vestibule will be removed, stripped, and repainted. The panels will be stored for seasonal reinstallation. Selected woodwork components, if possible, will be salvaged and reused, including but not limited to porch posts, spindle decorative frieze, Chinese-style balustrades and railings, and porch lattice screens, compatible wood filler before, the wood will be carefully stripped of their many layers of paint down to the bare wood, and minor defects will be filled with a compatible wood filler before priming. Selected existing wood moldings will be used as templates toward the fabrication of profile cutting knives, and selective reconstruction of the existing front porch from plans showed that the new floor will be 8 feet by 26 feet, and the new porch flooring will be 1 by 3 or 1 by 4 tongue and groove fir. And an 8-foot wide stair with 3 steps will lead to the porch floor. And reconstruction of the entire roof will include a new hipped roof to be covered in a new hand-crimped standing seam metal roof using 4-gauge galvanum with fluorocarbon coating in color on vapor permeable weather resistant underlayment. And then the built-up cornice will match the existing profile. Crown molding will be installed around the perimeter to match the existing, along with new tongue and groove floor beadboard on the porch ceiling. Existing molded wood siding will be scraped and repainted. The fascia boards, spindle decorative frieze will be salvaged where possible, where the spindles are missing and top and bottom rails are damaged beyond repair will be replaced in kind. And the Chippendale porch railing will be salvaged where possible, where damage beyond repair will be replaced in kind. The porch posts are also to be salvaged. These features will be stripped and primed and repainted with 2 coats of high quality exterior gloss latex paint. Notes from the owner mention that the paint will be removed from the wood through dipping. Prior to stripping, coatings shall be tested for lead-based paint, and if present, all abatement protocols required will be followed. The entire porch will be painted to match when completed, and the owner also provided another note that there will be no exterior painting to the rest of the main structure as part of this proposal, but there will just be some touch-ups on the front facade as needed. So staff recommendations is to determine if the proposal meets our design guidelines and to approve, deny, or modify it accordingly, citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, Chapter Roofs 1 through 13 and chapter porches and steps, pages 1 through 9, County Code Section 32-7-405, as well as County Code Section 11-2-20.
Thank you, Jessica. Is the owner or representative with us today?
Yes, we have the property owner, Mr. Ruben Bard, and we have Mr. I'm so sorry. Let's see. We should have Mr. Dean Camlin. I'm going to unmute you both for questions. Hi, folks. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Jessica. How are you?
Great. Thank you.
Is there, Mr. Bard, is there anything you'd like to add to the description we just heard?
No, that was very detailed and contained more information than I usually know about it. That's why we have the architect on to add any specifics that I might not be able to answer. There was a question when it was first submitted about the three-part vestibule that you saw in the pictures. That was it's a temporary structure. We'll take that off, strip it, repaint it. They put it back on seasonally depending upon the weather, but that's sort of to be determined.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioners, any clarifying questions that you'd like to ask of Mr. Bard and his architect?
A great set of drawings, compliments to the architect.
Well, thank you.
It's nice to be able to read what's going on and understand it. Not always the case.
And then was there somebody else? I thought I heard.
Yeah, I just had a question for staff about the dipping, whether that was allowed and considered a gentlest means necessary in terms of the paint removal on any of the existing wood features.
Our guidelines mentions to remove paint by the gentlest means necessary, usually by like light scraping and depending on the, I have them. It's the wrong way. Removing loose, cracked, flaking, or layers of paint by gentlest means necessary, usually by light scraping or light sanding. Harsh chemical treatments and extreme abrasive measures should be avoided. I'm not familiar with dipping or the type of chemicals that would be using for that.
This is Lily Mundroff. I believe when we talk about the dipping, there's a lot of the original natural oils are lost. So I think maybe they use it for some interior doors, but I'm concerned that with exterior, anything that's exposed to the exterior, and that will continue to deteriorate even further, and maybe just there are other methods, I guess, of applying like a gel or something that removes the paint that doesn't deteriorate the wood. So I don't know if there's anything like that that could be considered
gentle enough.
Certainly it can be considered. You just brought it up. So
citrus strip that I've used before.
I have a question on the exterior wood that is going to be used for the porch. I guess all the parts and pieces that are not reusable. I don't know whether the existing is cedar, but would there be a mix of woods, or would they match in kind?
We have not tested or checked what the existing wood species are.
I'm sorry, say that again. You have not tested?
That's right. That's right.
And so, Lily, to follow up, would that affect, is that information we need to know?
Well, I see a lot of a lot of these details, I mean, there are companies that will do, you can order off exactly the same type of profile. So if that's what's going to be the case, then just making sure the profile, the wood species matches whatever they are taking out.
Okay.
I was thinking if in fact what's there is cedar and they are reusing what is salvageable, the proposal mentions fir. So I want to clarify, what is there going to be a mix of different woods in these features, especially the railing and the spindle posts and that sort of thing.
So any insight on that, Dean or Mr. Bard? Are you going to mix woods, or is it going to be consistent throughout?
I think, Dean, unless you have a comment, I think what we're proposing to do would be to match anything that's there. There may, I don't know how this was constructed. I don't think it's as old as the house itself. I don't think it was an original build. It was added on sometime later, but I've been here for 30 years. So it was certainly here and old when I bought it. We would match any of the woods. Certainly we would use hardwoods that are appropriate for this kind of construction. If it's cedar, we'll match cedar. There may be places where it's better to use some other kind of wood than the one that's there. But we'll do our best to match everything that's existing. I mean, some of the species of woods, and I'm not a wood person, so I'm talking off the top of my head, may not be around anymore. So we would do our best to match those with the appropriate material, but all hardwoods, so that you don't see the same level of rot that I already have.
The application says softwood, though.
Is that for the flooring, though, Dean?
Well, yes, Douglas fir is a softwood, and and I would expect that the rest of the finish materials on the porch are probably fir. The extent of the deterioration makes me suspect that we don't have cedar as part of those materials.
So what I'm hearing from the commissioners are some recommendations that I hope you will take to heart, that may make the project better and make it more durable for you going forward. Commissioners, without any other clarifying questions, do we have a motion to approve?
John,
Yeah, Wendy.
This one, I just had a question about the vestibule there. It sounded as though it may or may not be put back. Is that true, or what exactly is that?
I can answer that one. When I bought the house, it was a 3-piece removable vestibule, so that winter or summer, when it got too hot or too cold, and when I was younger and had friends, we used to be able to pull it out and store it. Now it's really heavy, and so I've kind of left it in for a couple of years. But at this point, it'll be removed as part of the demolition. It'll be stripped and repainted, and at least for now, I'm just going to store it in the garage. We may put it back on if there's a harsh winter or particularly bad summer, but it was really just designed to keep, these houses don't have air conditioning, so it was really just designed to maintain that internal heat or cold that we have for that old house.
Well, that's why I was wondering, because I've seen these vestibules, which I think are kind of a defining character of that era, of that type of house. I see them more north, in
Yes.
New England and everything. But
If the commission decides that they want me to put it back in permanently, I'll be glad to do it.
okay, it just seems to be kind of a defining feature, and I'd hate to see it gone.
No, we would never throw it away.
Oh, I know that, but I mean,
But
just
if you all want me to put it back in as part of this approval, I will be glad to do that.
We
Thank you.
we will have Wendy call you when she's going to be driving out that way.
Thank you.
right,
Okay.
no
Okay,
problem.
so thank you for saving that feature, of course. Commissioners, then with those questions answered, anything further we need, or is somebody ready to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve as submitted and issue a certificate of appropriateness.
Thank you. So and a second?
Just as discussion, I'm wondering if we should suggest, and I think as the owner had indicated, and that, and Dean, I think you had also indicated that you look at the species of wood for a durable, solution there.
Good.
Yes, that's a good suggestion.
Yes, so you can approve with
I
a
agree on
condition that they make sure to select the appropriate hardwood for more durable
Yeah.
wood.
Okay. Yeah. So we amend that to to identify an appropriate hardwood to be used for that.
So would that be hardwood that we would pick, or Chris, are you?
No, I think that would be up to the owner designer, but essentially, understanding, the issues with rot that currently exist there, and identifying an appropriate hardwood to use. I don't know that we need to select that.
Other Chris, do you accept that amendment to your motion?
Yes.
And did we want to put a condition related to the not using dipping?
I'm not concerned about that. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think it should be studied further to see what effect it's going to have on the wood.
So the concern is that
We could put in the condition by the gentlest means necessary that, the suggested.
Mm-hmm.
okay. So that Chris Weston. So we have two amendments. One is that we amend the motion that they should use hardwood where possible. Am I saying that faithfully, Chris Parts?
Yeah, that's fine. Mm-hmm.
And then Phoebe also amends it to reinforce that they use the gentlest means possible to strip the paint. Are you comfortable with both those amendments, Chris?
I am.
Good. And then, so now do we have a second for the amended motion?
Second.
And what about my vestibule?
Yeah. the one in MacGyver Memorial Vestibule.
Well, I would say from the pictures, it doesn't look like the vestibule was a permanent part of that, because it looks like the
No, that is true. They aren't usually, but
right.
I just want to make sure that it's saved and.
Yes, yes, that is part of the provision.
Guarantee it will be saved.
It's baked
Thank
into
you,
it.
thank you.
Baked into it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, may we have a voice vote? I mean, a roll
Yeah,
call?
I'll go there.
Thank you.
Have Chris Weston, please.
Yes.
Great. Dan?
Yes.
Ed, please.
Yes.
Lily?
Yes.
Phoebe?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Chris Parts?
Yes.
And John, please.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, our final item for discussion is the Piazza property located at 1603 Frankie Avenue in Lutherville. This is County Council District number 3, and it is a contributing resource within the Lutherville County Historic District. The applicant is seeking an ex post facto review for in-kind slate shingle, flat roof, gutter, and cedar railing repairs and replacements. This is code enforcement correction number CD24000006. So the property at 1603 Frankie Avenue is a 2.5-story dwelling constructed in the Georgian Revival style in 1907. Preservation Services was contacted in January of 2024 and informed that work to the structure had been completed without a permit or review by the LPC. Subsequently, a stop work notice was issued on January 4th, 2024, and the applicant is seeking an ex post facto review for a series of replacements and repairs made to exterior features on the south elevation of the home following storm damage in 2023. So for work item number 1, this is slate shingle replacements. A tree fell on the south elevation that caused damage to the existing slate shingle hipped roof. 80 reclaimed peach blossom 10-inch by 10-inch rectangular slate shingles were used to replace the missing and broken shingles in kind. The scope of work provided by the contractor indicated that the damaged trim and soffit on both the main roof dormer and the lower porch flat roof were removed, replaced, and painted to match the previous conditions, but no further information on this work was provided. Chapter 3, roofs, page 11, recommends that deteriorated sections of roofing such as slate, wood shingles, and clay tile may be removed and replaced in kind with materials that match the existing in shape, size, profile, texture, color, installation method, and decorative pattern. And that returning missing roofing elements or details must be documented by physical or pictorial evidence or from a neighboring property of the same architectural style. Work 2 concerns copper gutter repairs. Approximately 55 feet of existing inlaid copper gutters along the eaves of the south elevation of the hipped roof and approximately 45 feet along the second-story porch flat roof was removed. 2 new built-in gutter systems were fabricated in kind with 16-ounce sheet copper to replace the damaged systems. Again, Chapter 3 roof, page 6 recommends that historic exterior gutters and downspouts are typically made of copper or galvanized steel. Internal gutters, which are fairly rare in Baltimore County, are frequently constructed of turnplate, lead, or copper, and that if repairs are needed to built-in gutters, that custom fabrication is typically required. Work item 3 for the flat roof replacement. The existing second-story flat porch roof was replaced in kind with a 25-foot by 11-foot 0.06 EPDM rubber roofing. And again, Chapter 3 roofs, page 12, recommends that if the existing roofing material is not original to the home, it may be replaced in kind. Finally, work item 4 concerning the widow's walk and porch balcony railing replacements. The previous balcony railing system had been removed for repairs prior to storm damage and was destroyed in storage by the tree fall. Subsequently, the entire second-story porch balcony railing and widow's walk were furnished in kind to replace the existing. This work included a total of 203 linear feet of cedar railing replacements. The center of the hipped roof contained a widow's walk that consisted of a 2-piece cedar railing system. The entire widow's walk railing was reconstructed of western red cedar with a sloped bottom rail and 1 5/8 inch square balusters. 4 new 8-inch square by 40-inch tall cedar newel posts were furnished and set at each corner with cedar ball top finales. The MIHP form for the property indicates that the newels have molded caps and that each are accented with a ball top finale. Images provided by the property owner show that the ball tops are painted red. Likewise, the second-story porch balcony railing was furnished in kind with a 2-piece cedar railing system that consisted of a sloped bottom rail with 1 5/8 inch square balusters and 13 new 8-inch square by 40-inch tall cedar newel posts with ball top finales. The application indicates that 4 newel posts were recovered from the storm, but the damage was beyond repair. These posts were not used in the rehabilitation of the balcony railing. Images provided by the applicant indicate that the original posts have been retained. Chapter 5, Porches and Steps, page 6, recommends that porch components, including roofing, structure, flooring, steps, railings, decorative details, etc., made of any material should be evaluated individually to determine the condition and type of appropriate repairs or replacements needed. That repair deteriorated or damaged historic porches or porch elements whenever possible, and do not remove a historic porch without replacing it. To only replace porches or porch elements that are deteriorated beyond repair and have been replaced with incompatible new materials, and to photograph distinctive porch elements that are slated for replacement prior to their removal. Staff recommendation is to determine if the proposal meets our design guidelines and to approve, deny, or modify accordingly, citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, Chapter Roofs, pages 1 through 13, Porches and Steps, pages 1 through 9, County Code Section 32-7-405. And I'd also like to note that this afternoon, a commissioner had pointed out a detail regarding the porch railing for discussion, and we have the property owner and the architect with us tonight. So let me unmute them. All right, Mr. Vince Piazza and Mr. Craig Hasslinger, I have you unmuted.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
Good, thank you.
Just don't insult architects. I am just the contractor.
Apologies.
Okay.
I'm Vince Piazza, I'm the owner.
Is there anything that either of you would like to add to the narrative that Jessica just read to us?
I'm sorry, sir, I never heard it.
Oh, you didn't hear the narratives that she read about the work you did on the house?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. Is there anything that you would like to talk about in regard to that work? I'll just leave it open-ended then.
I'll be honest with you, sir. I'm not an architect or a contractor. I'm just a homeowner trying to do a repair based on a fallen tree.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. Well, not just a homeowner, a proud homeowner of a beautiful property.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions, clarification issues that you'd like to mention?
Yes, I want to take issue with the balustrade on the lower porch roof. And I was the person that submitted the document earlier today. Can I share that?
Please, Chris, that'd be great.
Yep. Do you want to share it, or I can share it, Chris?
Either way.
Give me 1 second. All right, Chris, and there's an annotate button up at the top. So you can click on it and you can.
Okay, what I looked at, the historic porch on the left, if you look at the ratio of solid to void on that porch, this is kind of tough to see on this slide, but the spacing between the balusters looks a lot tighter on this one, whereas the ratio seems to be about 50% solid, 50% void. And if you look at the new railing system, it seems like it's maybe 75-25, 75% void, 25% solid. And some of the other details to look at, if you look at the old newel posts, they have there's a definitive base, middle, top, and then the middle section has a deeply recessed panel. And these baluster or the new newel posts that are up there just only have one simple panel in the middle. And the railings, if you look at the railing of the original one, it's between 3 and 4 inches thick and has a definite, almost a grippable handrail surface compared to the one on the right, which just seems to have a very simple shape, not that deep. And then the bottom rail, similarly, on the original railing is probably about 4 inches deep, and the replacement railing is not nearly that deep. And in the first slide where you see those things from a distance, there really is a difference in appearance from the original railing to the replacement railing. See how transparent the railing on the left looks. Some of these pictures were a little distorted in the new pictures, but you can definitely see a difference in the appearance of those railings. So I just wanted to bring that to the commission's attention.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Any reaction?
Yeah, this is
Also, I'd
Fred
like to,
Hasslinger, the contractor.
Yes.
Mr. Weston never misses anything. But I do agree
Just
with you.
clarify
Mr.
that
Weston.
Mr. Hasslinger is an excellent contractor and replaced my roof on my house. So, and when a tree hit my house, Mr. Hasslinger was here the next day. So
Well,
we have a good relationship.
Oh, good,
Yes, sir.
good, good.
I agree with the
I'd like
space.
to ask another question about the balustrades there.
Well, look, may he answer the first one on whether there was some thought behind the change in the spacing and dimensions?
It was unintentional. The condition of the railing that was on the ground that got damaged by the tree. We did measure and try to do the best impression of what was there previously. Clearly, as Mr. Weston pointed out, we failed, and it should have been tighter balustrade. So I'd be more than happy to tighten them up. The balusters are each an inch and 5/8, and that's what the previous balusters were. So they're the same thickness, but there is about an 1/8 inch of paint missing on each of the four sides because it was really thickly painted on. We used some of the previous balusters, so they match very well. In regards to the inlay, I agree. It should have been a little deeper. I think when we finish the project and we can add at the bottom where there's still some trim that needs to be added. There has to be some 1x6 and then some quarter round that thickens the bottom of the newel post. So you can see the thick newel post and the picture on the left. We haven't not finished because the stop work order, we didn't put the rest of the trim on and the finials. So that is part of the project.
Okay, so still work to be done. Wendy, then your question?
My question was, I thought that the balustrades, the individual ones had to be tight because of safety.
Right, and that's a good point. This is a non-working porch. So there's no door access.
But historically, they were tighter. So in
Yes.
some of the, I guess, the older porches, you have that language of the tighter, as well as the sub rails and the base rails being taller, which is what Chris was mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Vince.
As Chris pointed out, the detail on the newel post and the railing thickness, I'm saying that correctly. Is there on the current, on that picture, correct? Am I seeing that there is some detailing? It's just not as obvious?
Yes, it's not as prominent. The recess,
yes.
The relief isn't quite as pronounced.
That's the word I was looking for, relief. Yeah.
So Mr. Hasslinger, did I understand you say that this railing is still a work in progress and there are some correctives you could do to address Chris's question?
Yes, sir. I definitely think we need to add a baluster between each. They need to be tighter to duplicate what was pre-existing. And then each of the newel posts would have plan to have additional trim added to it.
I'd be careful on doing that because I think that's going to make them a lot wider than the original newel post. I think you need to compare this project to the project before, which was so carefully measured and every part was so, exact replicas of what was there. This really misses it. I mean, you can see from the photographs you had, the comparison photographs on the prior slide, that you missed it on the top railing, the bottom railing, the newel posts need to be redone. I think you need to maybe redo the newel posts so they match the existing newel posts.
The other piece on the newel post is it looks like the new newel posts stick a couple inches above the railing, whereas the original ones did not. I think it was just the balls projected above.
Yeah, I think the whole thing needs to be brought to really match what was there, which was a beautiful, elegant railing.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we weren't privy to these pictures because that would have made it a lot easier for us to match the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to look at it and see and correct it to match what was there before. And I think I'm seeing the same thing on the upper railing on the Widow's Walk. I think that's a similar issue. I mean, I think that is a similar sort of railing. Looks to me like a very narrow railing from the photographs.
So what I'm hearing is some hesitancy on the railing. We do have the option for someone to introduce a motion that the applicants bring back a new design or correctives to this design.
I'd like to make that motion, John. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the roofing repairs and then reject the railing.
Okay.
I would second that.
Thank you. And any further discussion?
I would add one other thing. I think the Widow's Walk railing and the upper railing looks like it needs to be the same as the one below. Was that?
I took Chris to mean all the railings. I don't know. Am I overstepping, Chris? Was that what your intent was?
I honestly couldn't see from the photos whether that was part of the project. It was just that because there were close-ups of that lower porch, I could see that better.
Are we approving the copper gutters too?
Yes.
Yes, as part of the roofing, yes.
Okay. Just so the motion would be to approve work items 2 and 3, which are the copper gutter repairs and the flat roof replacement, but not, but also for work item 1, which is the slate shingles, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just the work item 4, which is the Widow's Walk and porch balcony railing replacement.
Exactly.
I would add that they should look carefully at the prior drawings and replicate that, and there are a lot of things wrong with the railing and the newel post, and they really need to bring it in line with what was there before.
Well, may I add something?
Sure.
As Mr. Horde said, we did actually look at the original 1907 drawings, and the spacing of the balusters were closer to how we have it now. If you look at the side of the picture number 2, it's on the side that was impacted. This is the opposite. The spacing on the balusters is a lot more similar to what was demonstrated on this drawing than what is currently on the roof. The pictures that you have has all been redone prior to us coming in and doing artwork.
But I think we have to stabilize it as it was before.
Originally?
Now, not what it was. We're not trying to take it back to the original. We're trying to stabilize it where it was in this photograph here. This is what it ought to look like, because that's how drawings, as you know, sometimes don't get replicated in reality. So we have to assume that unless there are other photographs, that this is what was actually built. And this is a very elegant, I think, appropriate for this house, which is a very elegant, beautiful house.
And can I add one thing? You still have one of the existing posts, which certainly like making sure the height of the existing post matches the new one. And where the rail and sub rails are hitting it, you have the existing you would have that kind of dimension to go by as far as what height and what alignment the new work should be based on the existing pieces that you have.
So the motion in front of us is to approve items 1, 2, and 3 and ask the applicants to rework the Widow's Walk and porch balconies to conform more closely to what was there prior to the recent trauma with the tree. And we're citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines for roofs 1 through 13, porches 1 through 9, and County Code 32-7-405. May we do a roll call vote, Jessica?
Could we have Chris Weston, please?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Lily?
Yes.
Phoebe?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Wendy?
Sorry.
Wendy?
Yes.
Great, thank you, Wendy. Chris Parts, please.
Yes.
And John, please.
Yes, and
Great, thank you.
before we leave this matter, perhaps we could ask Ed and Chris Weston to serve as a small advisory committee with Caitlin and Jessica to review the resubmission and authorize them to approve it.
Be happy to do it.
Okay, so
Happy to do it.
yeah, so since this is a code violation case, we do have to give a timeline for when we'd like them to return. Typically it's 6 months, but I mean that's the standard. But if you want to ask them to come back in 90 days or something like that.
I'm content. We need to do a separate motion, Caitlin. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, there doesn't need to be a motion for that since it's a code violation case. It should be standard that we have to provide a timeline
Okay.
to make sure that it gets resolved and things don't.
So my commissioners, my inclination would be to leave it open to give them the full 6 months, and then if Ed and Chris Weston are willing to operate as that subcommittee, we'll let them do the review. Is that okay with both of you?
Good to me.
I'm happy. I'll do it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you both. I appreciate it. So gentlemen, you heard the motion. We need to rework the balustrades on both the Widow's Walk and the rooftop, and you may bring it back to the commission, and we'll try to expedite the review with the subcommittee so you don't have to wait for a full meeting.
Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. We so appreciate you being with us. And with that, that concludes our agenda items. How about other items for historic review applications? Any other thing we need to talk about?
Yes, we just have Part 2 applications that received approval by MHT and were administratively approved by staff. So that would be the McDonald Hall property at 7525 Bologna Avenue. This is landmark number 210, Samuel's Hope. This was for Part 2 approval for the replacement of 2 cedar shingle side porch roofs with copper standing seam roofs, County Council District number 2. And then we had more property at 128 North Beechwood Ave. This was a contributing structure within the old Catonsville National Register Historic District. And their Part 2 was for the installation of a new HVAC system. And they are located in District 1.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Anything else we need to bring before the commission? Anybody? This is your chance.
Yes, I'd like to just note that the next community meeting for Towson High, which is a county landmark, is scheduled for Wednesday, April 24th at 7 p.m. in the Towson High Auditorium.
Thank you, Phoebe. Thank you. Hearing nothing else, thank you all for coming, and then we need a motion to adjourn.
Move that we adjourn.
Thank you. A second.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Thank you. And a voice vote. Hubba hubba.
Bye.
All right. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, bye.
Appreciate
Bye
it.
now.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Good night.